Well, good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Morning Glow. Welcome to another episode of The Morning Glow. Got a great broadcast lineup for you this morning. Got an absolutely amazing broadcast lineup for you this morning. What we're going to do, we're going to stay a little bit with what we talked about yesterday, but this is also way out Wednesday. This is also way out Wednesday. So whatever's on your heart, you can definitely give us a call. 678-381-1973. 678-381-1973. Give us a call. And we will talk about what you want to talk about and talk about it in its entirety. Talk about it in its entirety. So all you have to do is give us a call. 678-381-1973. 678-381-1973. Badger, good morning, sir. How you doing this morning?
Good morning. There's more snow here.
Now I heard y'all got it bad over that side, brother.
Oh, it snowed more last night.
Mm. And I'm looking out here. It's clear. The ground is clear. Cars
Oh,
just traveling, moving around like this, like they want to, man. And man, yeah. It's tales of two different stories. Tales of two different. You know what I mean?
yeah, we got freezing rain right now.
Mm. Lord, my Jesus. But what we're talking, what we started talking about yesterday was talking about the marriage. We was talking about
Oh,
marriage. Yeah,
oh
yesterday.
yeah, and then we went off in those other areas.
hmm Well, we kind of stayed on marriage. It was just different levels of marriage and different
Yeah,
aspects of it, and everybody wanted to continue talking about marriage and the whole idea and the concept of marriage. But Badger, not everybody know what it is, and not everybody is quote unquote marriage material. What do you say to that?
Uh, I'm actually having to think on that one.
hmm
I don't know. It's really hard to think that someone isn't marriage material.
Well, if
I
an
think
individual,
everyone has potential.
hmm
It's just depending on where they choose to be on if a marriage would actually work out.
some people, and I understand what you're saying, but I'm gonna tell you something, Badger. Some people are just not marriage material, and the reason why I said and everybody have their own perspective on it. You may see it a little different. Like I see it through my eyes as well as you see it through yours, which is fine. But at the same time, the reason why I say not everybody's marriage material. Some people just selfish. They think about themselves. They don't think about nobody but themselves. And if it ain't about them, then it's not a goal. It's not a goal. Some people just have this selfish mentality about themselves. And to me, and just me talking, I don't think that's because you can't go. It becomes, I think it becomes more of it go from an I to a we when you're married. And you have to. I think you have to really be conscious and consider that other person. You can't just go into this marriage thinking it's all about you. And if you do that, then you will have issues in this marriage. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I can agree with that. I mean, my mentality is it's a we all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Just when you get married, it's a um, two people that's come together under a similar, hopefully love.
Mm-hmm.
But most people do it for other reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's just me and my wife was doing a lot of talking on this stuff, and it's interesting. A lot of the perspectives, especially in the younger generation. Like me and my wife feel like we're part of the older generation because of the way we think and do things and stuff. And we're sitting out here watching people and going, "This makes no sense."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
Exactly.
go ahead.
No. I was agreeing with you. Yeah, that's absolutely right. And a lot of times, some of the things that they do, I'm going to call in and say you have some issues with the phone line. So I'm going to call him in real quick and get him in with us. But and you would like to think that, and you would like to think that you are raising your children to be marriage material. But man, once they get out of your house, man, and they got their own mind, they got their own mind, the way they do things. They don't always line. It don't always line up, brother. It don't always line up. And so, marriage is a very serious union. Mutual life, marriage is a real serious union. Marriage is a real serious union, and I don't think people always take it as seriously as they should.
I, d-
Um,
I don't think they know what it means anymore.
yeah, exactly. I can agree with you 100% on that. I can agree with you 100%. Um, and y'all said something yesterday along the lines of y'all think that people are kind of gearing or steering away from marriage. They don't see what is important to be married. And good morning, young lady. Let me
Good
go
morning.
to let me go to Linda. Linda, good morning. So how you doing this morning, Leonard?
Good morning, Ryan. Man. We got some connection issues this morning.
Oh, okay. No, you good. We
Morning.
got you up in there. We got you up in there. But we continue the conversation we had yesterday based on marriage, and this is way out west. So we don't know what we're going to talk about or what's on people's hearts. So we may steer in a different direction a little later. But Leonard, do you think everybody? And I asked Badger this question. I want to ask you and Sadaria this question as well. Do y'all think everybody? Let me answer it first. Do you think everybody is marriage material?
No, not at all.
Go ahead.
Well, you got some people that just horrible people,
Mm-hmm.
and then they don't know how to treat other people, and therefore they really shouldn't engage in marital relationships.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, people have their different points of view when it comes to what marriage is supposed to be. Some people think it's okay to fight, fuss, and carry on during the marriage or whatever. Then they turn around and say, "Well, I remember how they used to say, well, everybody fights, and everybody this, and everybody that." No, everybody don't.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
know, everybody have issues, and people deal with them based on their moral values and their principles and what have you.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And that's
Now, marriages, and that's why I'm saying marriages are difficult. People are difficult.
mm-hmm.
Because you can now, it's about commitment more than anything in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Are
Mm-hmm.
you committed to the person that you say you love and that you took a vow to do certain things for?
Mm-hmm.
See, once again, it goes back to having values and principles. That's the only way marital relationships really work.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And see, and that's the thing right there. A lot of people. I love we y'all are going with this, and not everybody is marriage material. You would like to think that there was, but Sadari, let me come to you for a second, and I'm gonna ask you this question because I know you're gonna come from the spiritual aspect. From the spiritual aspect, should everybody? It doesn't matter. Should everybody be married?
From the spiritual aspect, no. For those of you who are biblical or biblical to the point of really reading your word, Paul talks about it in 7th chapter of Corinthians. He says he wished that everyone was as he was. And what he meant is he had a gift to be single. Singleness is a gift, just like being married is a gift. And
Mm-hmm.
everybody is not gifted to be both. I know people who are gifted to be single. They have no desire for a mate. They have no desire to have sex. They don't have a problem being celibate. And that's just their gift. They're okay
Mm-hmm.
with just being by themselves. Also, a person with a singleness attitude can come from the way they were raised, if they were abused, what they saw growing up, because as we all know, what we see is what we do more than what we're taught being what we do. If we see parents that cuss and fight and argue and stay together 50 something years, that's what a person looks for when they go to get married, because everybody's love bottle looks like what they grew up with.
Mm-hmm.
So um, that's why you have women who grow up and, they get married and they're very aggressive because they were raised by a single parent, by a mother, by herself. And all they
Mm-hmm.
saw was that woman trying to be a father, because a woman can't be a father. Or,
Mm-hmm.
so then their daughters turn out like them, aggressive, neck going, being bossy, and feeling like, well, if I got to go through this with you, I don't need anybody. Or if they heard
Mm-hmm.
their parents, their mom say, your daddy's wasn't no good and I don't need no man, then the woman grows up with that same persona. So no, everybody doesn't need to be married, because as we were talking about yesterday, if you're not a selfless person, if you're
Mm-hmm.
selfish, you don't need to be married. If you're selfless, then you're more marriage material than someone who is selfish.
Mm-hmm. That's good. That's good. And Badger, it goes a lot of times. It goes back in what the young people have experienced. Because she said something a second ago, and I love how she said that. If you grew up in a household where everybody's always fussing and fighting and all the different things,
Mhm.
you just think that that's what. I'm gonna mute your line. I think we got a feedback coming from your line. This story. I'm gonna mute your line. Um, and so if that's what they know, unless or until they get into a situation where they can see something different or is taught something different at that particular section or place in their life, they're not married material, because they're going to bring that same cancer and that same illness into the bond that the bond that they're supposed to have with this other individual, and it's not going to go well. Especially if the other individual comes from a very loving family, a very loving and nurturing household. They're used to a certain thing, and here you coming from this disruptive household where they want to argue, fuss, fight, throw shoes at each other, and all cuss each other out and all kind of things. That's all. To me, that's oil and water. Badger, what do you say to that?
I think in certain situations I would agree with that. Um, Me and my wife, um, both came from abusive homes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but we are breaking the cycle.
Yes.
So, like in our situation, we didn't get together because of attitude or yelling at each other. I've always been kind of just calm and mellow, or that's what I always do my best to be.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Unless someone hits certain topics, and then I kind of, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
um, and my wife's the same way. She can be very strong, uh, strongly opinionated depending on the topic. Um, but it's and that's the part. Communication is what's helped so much,
Mm-hmm.
just in general. Um, and the fact that we're not selfish people also helps a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my wife jokes around with me all the time saying that she doesn't think I have a selfish bone in my body. You know, um, which is hard for me to accept because being a human, that I've got to be selfish at least once in some way. We just ain't figured it out yet. Um, so it's looking at things from the perspective that I do, and looking at deeper things. I a lot of times, you know, I'll I'm so curious. I always ask why on just about everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very OCD about it
Mm-hmm.
because I'm always wanting to understand. Because when I watch people in the way, like the logic part, I mean, practically my whole brain runs off of logic. When I watch people behave the way that they do, I work really hard at trying to understand why, because a lot of what I see doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've seen people that you can tell has a really good heart, but the way they behave it's almost like they just don't know any better.
Mm-hmm.
So
You say that don't know any better. or just don't care to do better?
The ones with a really good heart, it's really hard for me to think that they don't care.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of them, if you point it out and it clicks in their head, they'll change their behavior.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Now, the ones that don't and continue to act the fool, I don't consider them as good-hearted as other people.
Okay. Now, Leonard, what do you say to that? Would you agree with me? And Badger, Badger, he look at things the way he look at things, man, because Badger is a caring brother, man, and he just want to see the best in people, and which is certainly not a bad thing at all. But is there some people, Leonard, that just don't care to do better? They just this how they are. They just stuck on that, and they're gonna be this way. Either you deal with me or you don't.
Of course. That's just how some people are. That's their character.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't make good marriage partners.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So, people should try to steer clear of that type of thing. Like I said, your marriage is what you make it.
Mm-hmm.
And, a lot of people on marital advice, there's some basic things. And one thing about those basics is that usually applies to any type of relationship that you have.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not reserved for marriage.
Yeah.
I don't make excuses for people. Bad people do bad things. That's how you know they're so bad.
Mm-hmm.
But they prefer to do bad things. People with bad hearts do bad things. That's why their heart is bad, because from that bad heart comes those bad things.
Mm-hmm.
It's not
Exactly.
like you good on Tuesday, you horrible on Wednesday. No, you're a horrible person.
Yeah. Yeah. And see, those are the people that I'm talking about right there, Sidaria, that are not really marriage material. And you like to think that there's somebody for everybody, and that's true. Sometimes opposites do attract. And sometimes, you get these people, the good people, and they get tied up some kind of way with these people that's not so good. I'm not calling them bad, but not so good, because opposites do attract. But how hard is that road to travel? There you go.
Well, when I generally view most things from my own personal experiences and um, what I've learned, you know, from studying biblical principles.
Mm-hmm.
Um, people people attract to people attract two different ways. One of the ways they attract to what they are.
Mm-hmm.
The other ways that they attract to what they want to be. So I've been in both situations. I've always attracted to people who uh, needed or appeared to need to be saved because I'm a nurturer by nature. I
Mm-hmm.
want to help. I want to fix. I want to solve a problem. That's just who I am as a person. And I've been that way since a child. Again, because I teach inner healing, some things go past, um, just a person wanting to be good or bad. Some things go to the soul or the spirit of a person. Some
Mm-hmm.
things happen in the womb before the person even gets here. It's just like scientifically how they say if you read to a child, the child can hear you. If you sing to a child, the child can hear you. If you're pregnant and you and the dad are always going at it, the child can hear that. If the mom is always saying I shouldn't have had this baby, the child is born with a spirit of rejection, so they operate in rejection from the time they get here. if
Mm-hmm.
if uh if a if a mother is always saying while she's pregnant, I don't know why your dad left me, he abandoned me, then the child is born with a spirit of abandonment. So these are spirits that people carry around with them based on what they've heard and again what they've seen. Psychologically, we're told that a child develops their full personality between 1 and 6. Now they said 1 and 7, but the reality is that, you know, the foundation of a person is developed in the very early years of their lives. Now they can change as they
Mm-hmm.
grow up, as they learn, as they experience. I left home very naive. I thought I knew a lot because I knew what the word of God said, and I left home thinking that's how everybody thought and felt.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody was trying to, you know, love like Jesus. Everybody was. I really
Yeah.
left home thinking that because
Mm-hmm.
that's all I heard and that's all I understood. So the first time I got married, I was 17, and I left home with the idea that I'm just going to save the world like Jesus. So whatever man I marry, I can save him if he's broken. Well, rude awakening. I can't save anyone and I
Yeah.
can't change anyone.
Mm-hmm.
So I still think it goes a little deeper than, you know, just having bad people and good people. And, you know, people who grow up with a father is going to be totally different than a person that grows up without one. I know
Mm-hmm.
because I grew up without one. So
Mm-hmm.
their views, their ideas, their thoughts are going to be totally different. My ideas about men are totally different from a girl who grew up with her father. It's just
Yeah.
different, you
Mm-hmm.
know. So it's different dynamics that create the persona of a person.
Mm-hmm. That's good. That's good. Let me ask you this question, Scenario, then we're gonna move on to Badger.
Okay.
Men and women, we spoke a little bit about this yesterday. Men and women, do we even view marriage the same?
No, absolutely not. We do not. How can how can a woman view marriage like a man? Let's be realistic.
Mm-hmm.
In every way, in every relationship, whether they stay together 60 years or 6, one of the things that you hear each party say is women are so different. And then women are saying men are so difficult. So no, we don't view it the same. I think I said previously, let's just use the word submission. I bet if I asked the guys what submission means, it wouldn't be how I see submission. So
Mm-hmm.
it it's a matter of communicative words, learning to teach each other how the other party really views and thinks about that particular word. That's a word that's never discussed before people get married. Well, how do you see submission? Because if I don't see it that way, we already got an issue. You know,
Mm-hmm.
how do you see if I say the word to you, honey, honey to you might mean something different than honey means to me. I'm just
Mm-hmm.
using simple words, but it's the communication process is really, besides love, is really the crux of a relationship because two people don't even view words the same way, let alone male and female.
Mm-hmm.
I think the other day you had a discussion about, you know, if a woman walk in a room and you know, if men are walking in the room, they got to do their testosterone, and
Mm-hmm.
women, they use their body. Well, that shows you right there we're different.
Mm-hmm.
So no, a man doesn't see marriage the way a woman sees marriage.
Exactly. Now, so let me come to you. I'm gonna switch gears and mute your line from this area. We get some feedback from your line. Mute your line for, and there we go. Badger, if one person is a cuddler, love to cuddle and love to be real affectionate, and the other person is not, you know, they grew up in a household where they didn't do all this touchy feely stuff and give me my space, man, move back, get back. You know, how much of an issue could that be? Now they're in a marriage, they're husband and wife. And because they become married, the person that love to cuddle is not gonna just all of a sudden want to stop cuddling. And the person that don't like to cuddle all of a sudden is not gonna just now want to be a cuddler. So how much of an issue could that be? Uh-oh, Maggie.
So most of you guys know I'm on the I'm an Asperger's, like high functioning autistic. So what you're talking about is actually really ironic.
Mm.
Um, My wife is constant, like, gets on to me a lot because the way I grew up, I wasn't allowed to be autistic.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the things that mentally messes me up, that I'm very like particular about, things that can like totally throw off my whole day just by something new in the environment, and different things like that. Um, she's always wanting me to voice it and talk about it and stuff like that, but I put more priority on her and the kids. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it drives her crazy because she'll sit there and watch me, you know, like start to shake and like get somewhat emotional, but I work really hard at keeping it under control.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and she's taught me so much. Um, but like in our marriage, we work really hard at communication because we both feel it's that important. Like we couldn't describe to somebody how the love we have.
Mm-hmm.
The best way we could possibly describe it is we don't want to be without each other.
Yeah.
It's just so hard to think about that we just start crying,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and it's it's an amazing experience to be able to feel or experience that. Now, as far as the question that you're asking, it can be hard sometimes because like the things that like the stuff that can really mess me up, like certain like I'm very much routine oriented. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm always like routine is something I need to stay mentally calm throughout the day. My wife, on the other hand, is not so much keen on following a routine down to the T. So we work on compromise. So I have my times where I have like the morning show. If I don't wake up in time to attend this show, it actually emotionally messes me up for most of the day because I'm not in my routine.
Mm-hmm.
So I hate waking up late.
Mm-hmm.
I know that when I do wake up late, it's probably because my body needs to rest, but
Yes.
my brain is like, what do I do? It's late. I'm an hour late. Like it goes into freak out mode.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the ways we worked around it is I have a routine in the morning that I do. Well, being on here with y'all awesome people,
Appreciate you.
and then work with the kiddos and the schoolwork and things like that. And then the rest of the days kind of, I mean, it's kids, so it's like, wee.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the evenings, I have another routine where I do like the gaming and different stuff like that. So I have my routines for when I first wake up, which helps prep me for the day, and my routine in the evening to kind of like help mellow me out for when I go to bed. And my wife works really hard to work within that because she
Mm-hmm.
accepts me for me, which is
Mm-hmm.
another concept. I'm always used to accepting people for who and where they are, or I do my
Mm-hmm.
best to do that. This is one of the first time. My wife was the very first person that accepted me for me
Mm-hmm. That's good.
until I met you guys.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a concept I'm having to learn because it is very foreign to me.
Mm-hmm. That's good. Leonard, what do you say to that, brother? If one person is a color and the other person is a standoffish type, what type issues could that lay into a marriage?
I mean, it just depends. That don't mean you're like that with everyone.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you that standoffish, trust me, you ain't said yes to nobody, and you definitely ain't asking nobody to marry.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you are what you are. If you want to change, you can change. I'm not hung up on people, places, or things.
Mm-hmm.
What I want, I want.
And you said the most opportune thing about what you said is if you want to, a person will have to want to change, because if they don't want to change, it's going to be an issue. You're going to be with this person and y'all maybe got married for whatever reasons, sometimes the wrong reasons. And now you're in this union, you're in this marriage with this person. And now, this person wants to cuddle. This person is a real affectionate person. and you are not going to be able to fulfill that part of them.
Well, you have to think about who they want to be affectionate with.
Mm-hmm. Hopefully, their husband or their wife.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I think of it as having puppies.
Mm-hmm.
Or having a pet.
Mm-hmm.
That pet be all over you, but you still love that pet, but you teach that pet boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not, you know, why marry somebody you don't like? Why marry somebody you don't want to cuddle with?
Mm-hmm.
Why marry somebody you don't want to touch?
Well, see, I think it's a little different, Leonard. I think it's from where I'm looking. I think it's a little different because you can love the person, and I've seen people, and let me go here with. I've seen people that say, "I know they love me, they just never tell me. They just never tell me. They never voice it. I know they do." I even heard them go as far as to say, I would really love to hear them say it sometime. And then, but they say, well, I show you, I say I love you in the way that I treat you. Well, sometimes a person want to hear it. Sometimes that's beautiful, but sometimes a person want to hear those words. I love you. You know, I love you. Yes, I love you. And some people just not cut that way, Leonard. Go ahead.
I mean, it's a matter of what you like.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody, if you love a person, you'll just say it if that's what they like.
Mm.
If a person won't say it or refuses to say it, they don't love you.
Mm. I'm not gonna take that one. I can't. I understand what you're saying, but I don't know if I can accept that because you know they may because as especially now see you about to make me pull out some of our man cards. You know, I don't want to do this, but you know sometimes us as men some of us are so stern in that way. Man, we ain't got time for all that mushy stuff. Is what we say. Man, we ain't got time for all that, man. You know I love you. Girl, stop playing. You know I love you. Come on now. Did not blah 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 and did not blah blah blah. Well, sometimes she just want to hear it. So Daria, am I on
then
base?
then that is what you submit to.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That's good. That's good. Mutual line, so Daria, what's on your heart right now?
I was just listening to what I can two things. I want to go back to what Badger was saying. I understand his perspective, although I don't necessarily operate on that on the Asperger's perspective. I have a son that does, and I had to learn how to communicate love to him in the way that he could receive it. And one thing that I learned about him is his acceptance and tolerance of people is so very different from, I would say, the average person, because he just accepts people where they are. It doesn't matter. He just accepts them. He doesn't judge them. He doesn't talk about them. He doesn't put them in a category. He just sees it as, oh, okay, that's that person's routine. I'm going to use the word Badger used. That's that person's routine. I understand their routine, and that's okay because I have my routine. And so in that case, like what you guys were just talking, I'm going to relate it to what you and Leonard was just talking about. My son had to learn, and this took years, to hug people, to let people kiss him. If you kissed him when he was a little boy, he would wipe it off in front of your face. Like, no, that's unacceptable to me for you to be putting your lips on my face. And that was just something he couldn't rationalize in his mind. So he did get married, and this one woman, as Badger spoke, totally gets him. Totally gets him. And because she does, he's learned to hug her.
Yeah.
He doesn't go around hugging everybody, but he's learned to hug her. He's learned to be a little more affectionate, but he had to learn that. because it was outside of his spectrum and routine. So I agree with Leonard. When you love someone and you are willing to change, yes, you will tell that person you love them, even if that's not in your MO,
Mm-hmm.
if that's not your mode of operandum. My kids would tell me I wasn't affectionate, but I felt like, look, I'm out here hustling, working, because I was a single mom. I'm working. You don't want for nothing. Your house is always clean. I fix 3 meals a day. I do all the laundry. I go to the grocery store. So I thought, you don't know I love you by now. You're not gonna know. That was
Mm-hmm.
my thinking, but that's how my mother was. So I
Mm-hmm.
still think it goes back to where a person comes from and what they learn. But in my marriage of 17 years, my previous husband was very affectionate. So I had to learn how to give that back because he needed it, not because
Mm-hmm.
I needed it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But in that selflessness, because he needed it, I had to make that exception in my mind, even if it was uncomfortable for me, because
Mm-hmm.
that's what he needed. And because I loved him enough to strive to give him what he needed, despite the uncomfortability for me. So
Mm-hmm.
it's still personal. I get Leonard's perspective. If you love someone, you will say, I love you, knowing that's really a need for them.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the same token, that other cuddly, huggy, feely person got to get, look, you in my space, you need to back up. They got to get that. And they have to learn from your body language when they need to back up. And then they have to respect you enough to do that. So that's kind of how I see. I was listening to what everybody was saying, and that's kind of how I can see where everybody's coming from in that area. But you have to be open-minded, and communication again is key to everything.
Okay. And I want to ask this. I'm gonna ask this question of Badger. Why do people get married?
Oh, you know, speaking for me and my wife, it's because we just knew we wanted to be together.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of that, there are a lot of people that get married that I honestly don't know why they did,
Mm-hmm.
especially in abusive relationships and why they stay in them. You
Mm-hmm.
know, which borderlines on a topic I actually want to bring up, or a question I want to bring up. Because, talking about marriage, talking about all this stuff, I also view the word marriage isn't just between two people that decided to be together, but it can also be a person can be married to certain beliefs, concepts, and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and through observation and research and everything else, there are a lot of times where my logic just seems like a lot of the marriage issues between people stem from not only their relationship with their parents and community, but also th- what they're taught to be married to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, mm, I guess I'm kind of just dancing around.
No, go ahead. You good? Go ahead.
Um, do you want me to bring it up? You
Huh?
sure?
Badger, I don't know where you're about to go, brother. I don't know where you're about to go. But go ahead.
um, the once again, it's most of the people I know that stay in abusive relationships is a misunderstanding of the biblical stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They think they have to do this because they're married to the religion and they're supposed to stick through things, even if it's um to the point where it's unhealthy for them and if they have children,
Mm-hmm.
which
Mm-hmm.
doesn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm. Well, see, and I'm glad you went that direction because there's a lot of people out there, and you're absolutely right, that stay in marriages longer than what some would think they should. Some would think they should because of abuse or because of different things. I tell people all the time when they come and they ask me a question, ask me about should they leave their spouse or should they divorce or something like that. And the first thing I tell them, look here, it's not my place to tell you, or because somewhere it says, what God bring together, let no man or let no man separate. So I'm totally out of character, out of my space, out of my place. If I tell you to end your marriage, I'm not going to tell you that. But I will tell you to go with your heart. What does your heart tell you? Are you listening to your father? What did your father tell you? And I'm not talking about your earthly father, I'm talking about your spiritual father. What did he tell you? Because he don't want it, because just like that is my wife. I have to understand that that's my father's child, my spiritual father's child first. She was his child before she was my wife. And because of the fact that she become my wife does not change the fact she's still his child. And I have to treat her accordingly. If I'm not doing that, no father wants his child to be abused, assaulted, and mistreated. It just, no father wants that. And so I will never tell anybody to end their marriage, but I tell them to listen to their father. So, Daria, what do you say to that?
I was gonna I agree with you, Raheem. And in response to what Badger said, a lot of people, like I said, I relate a lot of things to my own life. My first marriage was abusive. Um, and even though I was brought up in a very biblical, highly religious home, my natural father was a pastor, although I didn't grow up with him. And my mother was a missionary. So all I knew was Jesus. We used to call my mother Walking Moses. That's how
Mm-hmm.
serious she was about her religious beliefs. And
Mm-hmm.
so, but in understanding the scriptural text, it's one thing to believe in a religious practice. It's another thing to understand what you believe.
Mm-hmm.
So when in my first marriage, I didn't understand fully the biblical principles of the Bible, but because I grew up seeing a lot of violence, I refused to let someone physically abuse me and stay.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, had I seen maybe a marriage which is different from, if a person grows up in a home where their parents stay married through abuse, again, I'm going to say children do what you do, not what you say.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They respond to you being the authority when they're children, but because of decisions that they make internally, they become what they hate.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how you get children who have an alcoholic parent and they hated that alcoholic parent and they grow up and be an alcoholic. Or you get a child that grows up, they hated the fact that their dad beat their mom, or vice versa, because we don't always talk
Mm-hmm.
about how women can mistreat a man.
Yes.
And
Yes.
and and then they grow up and they choose that same personality. And then they stay because they mix up the religious belief about divorce with what they see as their love bottle. Again, people's love bottles look different. If that's how they perceived love as a child, because that's how their parents perceived love, and they saw their parents stay together until death do you part, then in their mind, that's what love looks like. And they might see other people have relationships different, but they're not as sensitive to being in an abusive relationship as someone who can logically say, this ain't how love is supposed to go. So, and I'm not even explaining it to the depths of the detail of it, but I know from counseling people who have stayed in abusive relationships, it's a cycle that they're in a cycle that they've seen, and then they become a part of that cycle, and because they're trying to control the abuse, the controlling person now becomes the abuser, whether it's physical, whether it's verbal, whether it's emotional. In some way, the person that was being abused, when they take control, now they become the abuser, and it's a cycle that they're in. Whereas with me, because of the abuse I saw, I made a decision as a child. I wouldn't ever let someone physically abuse me. So when I got married and my first husband did put his hands on me, it was a wrap. It was like, okay, I happened to be pregnant. And I told him, I said, as soon as I have this baby, I'm leaving. Now, I didn't divorce him for 15 years because of what I understood it biblically. It was like, okay, I can't get a divorce, but it never said that I had to stay. It never said that. It just said I couldn't divorce or remarry. So, and then there's a whole nother side to that I can't get into right now. It's too long. But, you know, still, you got to understand the dynamics of the whole picture, because what you see isn't always the dynamic of why you see it. So,
Good deal.
yeah.
And let me go to Leonard, and then we'll go to Rico. Leonard, what's on your heart, man? Because sometimes, like Badger says, sometimes a person get into this marriage situation and they stay longer than what they should, even in abusive type situations. What do you say to that?
That's why I'm just listening, because I don't have nothing to say about it. That's just how bad I am when it comes to certain things. I don't see no reason, no way, no how I'm gonna let somebody do something bad to me that I don't like. I don't even have a notion. I mean, I don't even have, that back and forth. No, it's not going to happen, because I don't desire it to happen, and I don't have to be with you, and I don't have to love you. I do what I want to do, and I'm not the type of person. People say, I can't say
Sidaria.
Sidaria said it's so beautiful. That's the person you need to talk to when it comes to those types of issues, because me, I'm the type of person. Here go the truth. If it takes you 15 years to get back to it, that's on you. But I know what I don't like, and I'm not going to put up with it. I never have. I've been saved since I was a child. So even though my father, he was a preacher and all this, but he loved to drink. I thought that he shouldn't drink, because when he drinks, he loses. So that's why he shouldn't drink. You know what I'm saying? So, we have a lot of people who are taking advantage of other people this way. And I don't get, I love the Lord and everything like that, but I ain't married to him. You understand?
Okay.
I'm married to a woman who I'm responsible for, who I'm supposed to be a husband to. So rarely am I going to fall out with her about anything. We have our differences of opinion or what have you, but we communicate, we're very clear about certain things. Everybody couldn't be married to me. Not because I'm a mean person, but because I don't worship other people. So, those types of things I'm very serious about, not just in my marriage, but in my relationships with other people. If I don't like you, I don't fool with you. Period. If you do something to me I don't like, I don't fool with you.
That's good. That's good. Rico, good morning, sir.
Grand Rising.
We pushing back on the on the marriage thing a little bit, man, because we had a lot of layers yesterday that we really didn't get an opportunity to cover. And asking the question: Is everybody, Rico? Is everybody marriage material?
Oh no. Everybody marriage material because they don't know the definition between being honest and loyalty. I mean, there's one thing about being married is that you got to be loyal to the person you're married to. You got to be loyal to them. You got to understand that when you are forming that union, understand what the definition of union means. You're coming together as one. You know what I'm saying? For one purpose and for that one household that you're planning to provide for, to produce, create. So some people don't understand that they to a certain extent have to dedicate their lives, you know, but many people, I'm afraid, many people get married not wanting to actually dedicate themselves to the next person fully. They still want to remain them, be who they are. And that's, so to be honest with you, that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to find out who you are before you get married. You know, I always felt like a person shouldn't graduate high school until they was like 22 or 23 because they're not mature enough. A person shouldn't get married till like 28 or 29 after. A person shouldn't have children till like 30. I thought I was sort of strange in believing that. And then I've been reading this book, The ISIS Papers, and the psychiatrist said the same thing. You know, and I'm like, hey, I guess I'm right because I do understand that to a certain extent, we don't mature according to the age guidelines that the government has put forth. And they know it. They know everybody doesn't mature at 18, but it really depends on your environment, your positive reinforcement. You know, I heard Sedarius say something about the abuse of a spouse and, you know, people staying in marriages. And, you know, some people, they it's hard for them to reconcile leaving a marriage because they have put, they didn't know how to discern how far they were supposed to be devoted to the word. Understand the word fully enough. And so they say, well, you know what? I don't want to get a divorce because they may look at divorce as an abomination, less than a failure. Some people just don't want it to be a failure. Want to feel like, you know what, I didn't make a bad decision. And then the other person, female or male, just might not believe in getting a divorce. They might believe in death do you part. You know, sometimes people take certain words out the Bible and certain words out the Bibles and make them literal. This is what I'm going to stand on. I might be with you till death do us part, but I still might cheat too. So they might stand strong on this death do you part thing. And maybe they stand strong on it because they are dependent on you. And you provide more than anybody else can provide. But they're going to stand on the death do you part thing and not going to leave. But when it comes to being faithful, they might slip a few times on that. That might not mean as much, you know. So that can happen, but that, you know, that child that comes from that environment, that abusive environment, maybe the wife or the husband that comes from that abusive environment, 9 times out of 10, it's a child that's going to repeat it. It's hard to counter that unless that child has a counter exposure to positive reinforcement. They're sitting there watching their daddy beat on their mama all the time, and they say, you know what, I don't like my daddy because he get drunk and he like to beat on my mama, even though he take care of her. They might give you that role, but if that child can also find another positive outlet, another some more reinforcement from a different mentor, it has to have enough consistency with it though, because that abuse, it can be so overwhelming, or it can be so abundant. You know, maybe they just got more exposure to that abuse that it outweighs that positive reinforcement.
Good deal.
It has to be an abundance of the positive reinforcement to counter that.
Okay, good deal. Let me go to Sedarius. Can a person, you know, I'm gonna switch up for a second because Rico just said something. We got that background, but Rico said, and we all said it, to death do us part. To death do us part. Some people take that in a bad way, till death do us part, and they feel as though they want to take you out. and they say, well, we got to be married until death do us part, so I'm gonna kill you. Go ahead.
Okay, that's just
A fool.
okay. It can be two things. You know, we said earlier that a person's perception and understanding of words, for one thing, conceptually how they perceive and understand those words. The other thing is that person has a mental instability to think that they have a right to take someone's life as opposed to letting someone go. It's a matter of them feeling like, well, that ownership, possessive idea. I marry you and you're mine until death do we part. So that's a brokenness in that person to feel and understand that they have that right according to utilizing those words and not fully having the right concept or perception of them.
Now, I know, Sadaria, you've heard somebody say this before, as sick as it is, and it's a sick thing to say. But if I can't have you, can't nobody have you. And they live with that. They say, and somebody asked what we're talking about. Our topic today is where I went, so whatever you want to talk about, you can call it. We'll waver a little bit, but right now we're talking about marriage and the marriage life. And when somebody says, Sadaria, if I can't have you, can't nobody have you, that's a dangerous person.
Oh yeah, big time. You know, if someone says that to you, then as a human being who values life, your I usually use me. My perspective is going to be that this person does not value my life in the first place for them to feel like they have the right to take it or that they own it to begin with. Then this person doesn't value my life. So do I value it enough to take myself out of the situation? And knowing, you know, what happens a lot of times is a person allows that, depending on the behavior of the person that said that, then the other person allows that to implant fear. So that fear keeps them stagnant from moving out of a relationship that they clearly know they need to move out of. So, but fear can operate two ways. You know, fear can keep you stuck, but fear can create the fight flight syndrome too. So, but you know, I would say for me, if someone made that statement to me, my first thought is, oh, you don't value. Why would you want to take my life? First of all, if you really loved me, and secondly, if you didn't give me life, how do you feel like you can take my life? So that's a good indication that I would need to figure out how to get out of that situation as safely as possible. And even if I didn't see a safety zone, I still would strive to get out of it. I left a situation that way. I left with bare feet. I had on shorts in the cold, no coat. I had to leave my children in the house and just get to the car and get myself out, because first of all, I couldn't save my kids if I couldn't get out. So I had to get out in order to get them out. So I've been in that situation. The person didn't say it verbally, but their actions said it.
Yeah.
To where, you know, they had me pent up at the door. Like, no, you're not leaving. And I had in my mind, I'm leaving if I have to jump off the balcony. I'm leaving. So it, you know, when it gets that serious, then you have to value your own life enough to make a way out of the situation.
Absolutely. The phone lines are open 678-381-1973. 678-381-1973. This is Way Out Wednesday right now. We're talking about marriage. We're talking about marriage, but the phone lines are open on Way Out Wednesday. Whatever you want to talk about, we will talk about that in its entirety. We'll shift the conversation to what you want to talk about at that particular time. Now, Badger, if somebody say, if I can't help you, can't nobody help you, and they have that look in their eyes, man, where you see that they want to do something to you, or they got this sickness in them, what is a person to do?
Well, I'd say get away from them.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of chuckled when I heard it, because I'm like, how many times have mothers said that to their children?
Mm-hmm.
You know, because that was something I grew up hearing a lot. Was, I brought you into this world, I can take you out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it makes me wonder if a lot of the people that behave that way learned it from their parent.
Mm.
So there's so much going on with that. You know, and it's, once again, it boils down to personal choices and what they think is familiar to them.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, there is so much that's messed up in the world right now, and it's relationships just in general, like outside of it, like marriage is a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and when you look at, you know, the word relationship and what it means, you know, and you apply it to friendship, you apply it to spiritual beliefs and things of that nature, you know, if you pay attention to that, I think it would help people understand more where a person is.
Mm-hmm.
Because a person's belief can tell you a lot about a person.
Mm-hmm.
And I was talking to Rico yesterday, because there's a lot of things that were brought up, you know, that my wife brought up to me, was talking about this topic and stuff, and about relationships and things just across the board, and the perception of what is and isn't and things of that nature is so skewed nowadays that it's really hard to get a full grasp of it without understanding where a lot of the source of that mentality comes from.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You really have to look deep into a person to find out and to understand that source that you're talking about. You really have to dig deep, man, because on the surface you'll never understand. On the surface you'll never understand, and unless until you get involved in a situation with this person, then you have to pull back some layers. Donna,
Well,
Tucson, go ahead, Badger.
well, to me, if you pay attention to their behavior and listen to what they believe in,
Mm-hmm.
hopefully a person's open-minded enough and have some kind of understanding within themselves
Mm-hmm.
what's acceptable and what's not acceptable for them, to honestly take those into consideration.
Mm-hmm.
Because that will describe how their relationship is probably going to end up working out.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Good morning, Tucson. How you doing this morning, sir?
Doing pretty good, man. Just glad to be alive.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We're talking this morning about marriage. We're talking about marriage, and we started off by asking a question, and I'm gonna pose the same question to you, sir. Is everyone marriage material?
No. Some try to make themselves marriage material when they don't know what that is, you know. And we have other folks' definition of what a marriage should be, and that's where we get in trouble. Even when we have a biblical standpoint because of what we've been taught.
Come on.
You know what I'm saying? I know what we know what the Bible says about marriage. But there's a thing about life that you have to kind of weigh it out, because let's take this. God loves us, all of us.
Yes. So
why should we, even in trying to make an attempt to stand on his word, be self-destructive? Where we help somebody destroy our lives in the name of Jesus.
Come on.
Does that make any sense? I mean, hey, hallelujah, praise the Lord, and you got a black eye. And I heard my sister said, and then you have to make that choice. That even if I have to jump off this balcony, it's better than being in this situation, because marriage shows the love of Christ. It portrays, it imitates, it looks like the love Christ has for the church. Will he give everything? Yes, he will. But will he make life worse for you? No. That love is a type of imitated love that only Satan can give, because he imitates. He tries to make it look like God. So he presents something that looks good, sounds good, acts good. But see, what we do is we lie, and he's the author of lies. So he tells a upfront truth that he can or she can't keep. And anytime anybody says, if I can't have you, nobody can have you, that's just like a death sentence.
Yes,
unfortunately.
Sir. Yes, sir.
It's time to consider life's value, because I heard it said they don't value your life. Crazy. Come on. He did it, but he loved me, or she did it because I saw a young man. I'm no talking. I saw a young man, and I was listening to the neighbors, and she said, "I'm gonna kill you in front of your mama." And I don't bother other folks' business. The only time I went out to the car was they was leaning on my car being interrogated. I said, look, I told the police, you're going to have to interrogate him somewhere else. Get off my car. And I went back out, make sure they got off my car, and I come back in the house and close the door. Because the worst thing you can do is get in other folks' business, especially domestic violence. Even if they say, they love each other, when they start getting like, anyway, I talked to him a little bit. Man, I'm so glad she gone, this nigga. But I look back and they're together again. Well, guess what? You missed it the first time. Because anytime somebody got a knife or a gun and they aiming it at you, that's just the first warning.
Yeah.
Don't let them get mad at you again, because it's coming. I'm just saying.
You never give a person a second chance to pull the first gun. I'm gonna tell you that. You never give a person a second chance to pull the first gun. No. That's one of the street rules, y'all. I didn't put that out there. Leonard, what's on your heart, brother?
I'm listening, taking it in when it comes to relationships because these are big issues for people. I'm just blessed enough to have a great relationship. I always have. I mean, I don't have a history of being with different people that way. You know, I'm very low tolerance in the relationship area. So I'm not a single parent or anything like that because I don't have a desire to be. These are things that I valued when I was a child. The values that I still have today. I know what the right thing to do, and I try to do that.
That's good. That's good.
So I was raised very traditional, but I know that's not for everybody. I simply listen because I don't understand certain things when it comes to relationships. I mean, I may understand them, but they're so far away from my thinking. I don't know how to be with somebody that I'm not getting along with because I'm not going to be with somebody I don't get along with.
Because ain't got time to try to fake it. Ain't got time to try to fake
then,
it.
I'm not going to go back and forth with nobody else about who they are and why they doing what they doing. I'm just going to remove myself from the situation because I truly believe do unto others as they would have, do unto others as you would have them do unto you.
Exactly. Good deal. Rico, what's on your heart, brother? Talk to me.
Leonard pretty much is a good example of what having a majority of a good foundation and structure and positive environment around you can do. Because he can walk more solidly and avoid a lot more situations that the average, I ain't gonna say the average person, but many other people, they don't indulge in because they had more toxicity around them. And we learn things consciously and unconsciously, from our environment. Not just our parents, but from our school teachers, from the janitor, you know what I'm saying? Because we might witness a janitor at school that might get disrespected, but he still keep a straight face because he know somehow they have proven to us that they are upstanding individuals. We get influenced by negative people, the drug dealer with the money and the big car. You know what I'm saying? But see, if you got enough positive reinforcement around you, enough positive expose enough positive examples around you that can counter all that negativity that may subconsciously enter your energy, then you can go a long way. You can avoid a lot of stuff like that. See, in these situations where people get in abusive relationships and they stay with somebody that says, if I can't have you, can't nobody have you, they might chuckle. Man, chuckle. I hear that sometimes from women. When they talk to women, I think I told you, I had like 16 aunts, man, you know what I'm saying, and one uncle. My daddy was the only son, and then I had an uncle that was the only son. And with the women, I saw every different type of woman that you can see existing on this planet. I is one of them in that group of them. So I had good exposure along with my grandmothers and my mother. But I heard them conversating with other women friends that they had, not amongst each other, because with each one of them aunts, they had a whole group of friends that they communicated with. So I was able to observe those relationships, listen to those conversations, and you hear, girl, he told me if he can't have me, can't nobody have me. Girl, his butt crazy. Yeah, but he nice. But he nice because he give you stuff. He got money. He know how to bait you up like Jeff Epstein. He know how to bait you up like R. Kelly. And you accepting that and you ignoring all of this other negativity and the potential for him to really stand on what he said. And he might not be feeling that way because he really just love you. He might feel that way just because he love all, not that he love all of y'all. Let's use R. Kelly as an example. He may have made some women feel that way, but it wasn't because he loved all of them. It was because he wanted to have control over all of them. Just like all the people around him, and they enabled him and allowed him to do what he was doing. All the other rappers that came to the studio and did music with him and said something, just went back and they talked about it, but then they just let everything play out. Ain't my business. So I don't want to come up and speak. They want to speak out now. But those women, with their stories, they were afraid to leave. But they also thought that he loved them. And he'd play a game with them. He'd break down and cry. All the emotion that he had in some of his music, he would use those same words and same emotion. He pulled out his acting talents on those women. So they put themselves second. But really and truly, if it had been an average man working at a foundry, they wouldn't have put up with that. He had things to offer. So you have to look inside yourself and say, well, am I taking this abuse because I like material things? Or because I like superficial access, the opportunity to be around this person with this status? Am I taking this abuse and this butt whooping? A lot of them did. A lot of them participated in the molestation. A lot of the women that came forward participated knowing that these girls were underage. But we made another tape. Wait a minute. Did I hear you say you made another tape, but you found out after the last one that she was underage?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So you kept doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But why are we taking that? Why are we lowering our morals? Or why are we taking abuse? Some people take abuse because they don't value themselves enough and they value whatever that other person has to offer. And so if they hear that, if I can't have you, that can't nobody else have you. They're just going one end out the other because if they can't have what that person, that abusive person that said that has to offer, they don't want nobody else to have that. They don't want nothing if they can't get that. So I'll look over that. He just talking crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Offer. He got everything else that I want.
Exactly. So they sell out themselves for that material thing. We got another caller. Caller, what's your name? Where you calling from? I think that's K with an E. K with an E. That's you. Mute button. Mute button. Mute button. Mute button. K with an E. That's you. Eight one.
Come back to me. It's me. Come back to me.
Okay, good deal. Badger, what's on your heart?
Man, just it's so interesting to hear the things and stuff like that, and I kind of want to bring up a different question, if that's okay.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
How has belief caused so much indifference to the state of what's going on right now? With marriages, with relationships, with personal growth, or personal self-worth and connection to creation or God or whatever spiritual person they want to believe in or name or label. Like how much have we gotten away from that?
I don't know if it's belief. I think it's lack of belief. I think it's more a lack of belief, because if a person truly believed and they built their foundation around the word and the word of God, and I'm gonna say this with word of God, creator, based upon where you are in your life. If you built your foundation on that, I don't think you have as many issues. Not saying you're not gonna have any, because you certainly will, but I think it's the lack of belief and the lack of connection with that spiritual being that allows you to make it to become vulnerable to the deceptions of the world.
Do you think that abuse and has any role in why people have a lack of belief?
I think the abuse is a tool that the abuser uses to encapsulate the person that he's abusing. He or she is abusing. I think it's one of the things. I think it's more, honestly speaking, people tell me I'm strange when I say this, but I think it's more an illness in the abuser than it is in the one that's being abused. I think it's more of an illness in that person, be it male or female. If you're out here abusing people to keep them with you, or try to make them submissive to you, or make them bow down to you, if you're doing these things just to keep that person there, you have a sickness in yourself. There's a lot of shortcomings in you that you really need to address and deal with.
Because the reason I brought it up is it's one of the things that my wife brought up, because it plays such a huge part in marriage and relationships, is belief. You know, and she actually got me to do some research. I'm still looking into it. I sent you a link about it. Like the use of biblical terms and verses have been abused and used for personal gain and power so much that I've noticed people have lost faith and belief that it has any good in it. And it's almost like they don't know where else to turn.
Okay, now the only issue I have with what you said is it loses its power. I don't remember exactly how you said it. Has no use or something to that effect. It still have use, but my thing is this right here, and I'm going to go to some other people as well. I don't want to talk, don't want to do all the talking. But my thing is, somewhere I read where it says, "Follow me as I follow Christ." And if I'm following you while you're following Christ, and we're both going in the right direction. But far too often, people with power, man, they get consumed with that power, and then they start putting themselves in a position of being God themselves. And then other people start following them, and no man, no woman have a heaven or hell to place you in. And because of the fact that they have no heaven or hell to place you in, you start looking at them as and start worshiping them, your pastor, your bishop, your apostle. You start worshiping that person, that individual, that man or that woman, and they have no power because they too have to be judged. It's gonna come a point in time where whoever you're putting on a pedestal is going to be judged by the Creator. And I say the Creator because it was your question. But Sidaria, what's on your heart?
Follow me as I follow Christ. For me, the understanding of that principle is what I think a lot of times we miss, even as those of us who say we're believers or Christians, we miss that Christ is a complete principle. He, who was embodied in a physical person. So when we use that phrase, we're saying follow the person that's expounding the principles the same way they're following the principles. So if you're in a ministry where the pastor follows the principles a certain way because that's how he's going to teach the principles, then that's how his constituents follow the principles. But if you go and understand and find perception for yourself about the principles, then you can follow them as they actually exist. If you follow, first of all, follow me as I follow Christ. Well, the biggest portion of the Bible that's going to show you what Christ's principles were is Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. So if you don't know the Gospels, which is generally about the life of Christ, then you don't know what principles to follow. The whole, the Bible is a set of principles. It's not just, something to keep people in bondage. It's a set of principles that a person has to decide that they are willing to follow. Now, these principles are universal, and that's where we get all this universe stuff coming in now. These principles are universal. They don't have color, and they're spiritual, and every person has spirit. So the principles are set up for every individual. But if you don't read the principles and you just take somebody else's perception or concept of the principles, and then you strive to live your life according to the way they view the principles, instead of
Mhm.
seeking it out yourself, because it
Yes.
also says study to show yourself approved, not to
Mhm.
show somebody else approved. You're supposed to study for you so that you can approve the word and you can rightly divide it as a word of truth.
Come on.
So if a person is not doing that, then they can't keep pointing the finger at someone else who's striving to do it according to how they've been able to perceive the principles so far, because it's a never ending learning process. It's a process that over a period of time, with consistent study and consistent revelation, change will come about in your life, and it'll come about in your life whether you want it to or not, if you
Mhm.
consistently study the principles and
Ex-
gain revelation about what you're studying. I'll
Mhm.
just give you a brief example. When I said in this first marriage, I got married at 17. So what kind of principles and experience did I have? I left my mother's house and literally got married, and I left hearing nothing but Jesus and married someone that drank, gambled, that did everything that what I grew up and was taught was supposedly against those principles.
Mhm.
Uh, I saw them as a kind person, a gentle person. I saw a lot of things, but as I grew older, I realized, well, I saw what I wanted to see because I had a motive for wanting to get out of the house at 17. I had to get real with myself as I learned to understand my choice. So the thing is, again, where I'm going to go back to perceptions. Your perception of what you see standing in a pulpit, then you make that choice whether you're going to make that person your God or your guideline for how you're going to live your life before your creator.
Mhm.
Or you can go and study it yourself, which it tells you to do, and then create the principles and revelation and understanding that God intends for you to have and is willing to allow you to achieve if you do what the principles ask you to do.
Good deal. Good deal. And I want to go to. Let me go to K with an E. K, are you ready? K with an E. Are you ready?
I'm ready. I'm ready. What's the question? What's the question? What's the topic for today?
Well, we continue with what we talked about yesterday, and we talked about marriage and asking the question. K, is everyone marriage material?
No,
Mm-hmm.
everyone is not marriage material. Everyone's not meant to be married.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone ain't meant to have a soulmate either.
Mm. Now, how you gonna say that? Because everybody, they say there's somebody for everybody.
Because I have a sister, and I wish I could call her on the freeway, and she'll tell you she done tried relationships twice, and she tried marriage once, and she said she would not do none of them over again.
Mm.
And she had not thought about a man, and had a man in years and years and years and years and years, and she's okay with it. Me and her talked about it last night. We laughed so hard. I was like, "Good Lord, crazy." But she ain't had one. She ain't thought about one. No, she said she got the bus. And she met a man on the bus complaint. He bought her a rose the next day on the bus. She said she thought that was supposed to be. She said, but that ain't gonna get you to my door. Like, none of that. You ain't gonna sweep me off my feet or none of that. She said, we ride the bus together. What could you possibly bring to the table? Tell her she ain't got time to build nothing with him.
Exactly.
She's building right now for herself. She won't even buy a house. She's like, when I leave this earth, my kids ain't gonna have nothing but the clothes to argue over. And if I can give all them away before I leave, I'm trying to give some away now. He told me to come and get them and take it to the home. I'm dead. Woo! That's a hard core right there. And she's serious. So she said she don't need no soulmate. She got God. God is all the soulmates she needs. that I can't knock her. That's her thing. And I can honestly say, ain't no man creeping in the door. None of that. Ain't none of that. She's good. And she okay with it. Then I got another sister that, she gotta have a man. Like, I gotta have a man.
Wow.
I got a cousin. Gotta have a man. But let me give y'all an update on Bert we prayed for yesterday.
Yes.
When I tell y'all God is good and prayer is powerful, Bert woke up. The doctor said he had a seizure. And he slept through it. He slept through the seizure. Bert woke up like, when my wife said, why am I at the hospital?
He said, there you go. Look at God. Look at God.
I need to call my wife. I said, look at God.
Yes. Won't he do it? Won't he do it? That's why I tell people, man.
Really did it.
I tell people how powerful, prayer is powerful. People don't understand how powerful, man. Like, people don't understand, man. That's your direct communicate with the Father right there through your prayers. And he hear you.
And it tells me a lot when prayer is answered like that. It comes from the righteous of the righteous heart. So I thank God for all of y'all on this prayer line. If I don't know nothing else, I know it's the righteousness on this line.
Praise God. Look. How you say it? Look at God. Look at God. Look at God. Tucson, talk to me, brother. Leonard, come to you next.
Hey.
Let me ask you. I'm gonna throw a question to you. Let's talk. We're talking about marriage, but even in a marriage, how alien is the art or the concept of forgiveness? Do people when somebody do something wrong, do they carry it like a tattoo and never put it down?
Well, we got this statement saying, I'll forgive you, but I won't forget you. Did you hear? So
come on.
What if and I'm still going back to what I said before. Marriage imitates the relationship between Christ and the church. So take this statement that people make, I'll forgive you, but I won't forget you. Does that emulate Christ at all? Because if he would remember everything that we did every time we asked for forgiveness, we'll be in trouble. But he cast it in the sea of forgetfulness that it won't rise up. When we become new. Good relationship with him all over again. And then here we are, we jack it up again. We go to him again. He restores us again. And we do the same thing. So I understand how he wanted us and even the prophet to know how he felt or he feels about Israel when he said, go marry that harlot. Because she won't be right. But when she go out there and she continues to be with her lovers, you go back and redeem her. So we can see how, so in order for him to really deliver the message that God wanted him to deliver, he had to put the prophet, the preacher, in the place that he would understand how God really feels about us. A bunch of whores and prostitutes, pimps, and our children are not out. Some of them, it might seem like is ours, but it ain't. But the next one, for sure, that. But when she go back out there, you go love her again. So when somebody said, well, but I won't forget. And then, the relationship gets good and then another, and then something happens to reflect that thing that happened 6 years ago. But I remember you did. Now something in that relationship,
something ain't right. Something ain't right.
Something ain't right with it. Reflect. Some people, they don't believe in Christ. I'm just saying what I believe.
Yeah.
You know, I'm talking about what I ain't got nothing to do with nobody else. But I'm saying the righteousness of God, the Creator, however you want to say it. Badger mentioned something that going so far away that what we're trying to do is create the Creator, and you can't do it.
No.
Does that make any sense? We're trying to figure out who is this God, who is this Creator, who is this divine being that made us, that got this thing all under control. And then so in our little minute mind, we try to fix him and shape him into our imagination, and you'll never accomplish that. That's why you're so jacked up now. Run tell that.
Run tell that. Leonard, what's on your heart, brother? Let's talk for a second, Leonard, about forgiveness in the marriage. Do we forgive each other as we should?
Sure, I have to forgive my wife. I always, but like I said, I'm just very, very blessed.
Hold on, now, Leonard. Now, watch this, y'all. Now, a lot of time, Leonard, you're the one that be messing up. Now, we as men, we can mess up.
I don't know, like I don't always told you. My ways are not your ways.
Okay. Come on, let's talk about
it. What y'all doing? I don't know what y'all men be doing.
Well, last I checked, you man too now.
I'm just saying, but y'all obviously doing something else because I don't do what you all do.
So we doing something different.
Yeah, I don't know what you be talking about. You know how men? No, I don't. I ain't never been with one. I don't know how no man is.
You know how you will. You know how you will.
Exactly. I know how I am.
Yeah. And you a man.
All that, y'all and men this and men that, and I don't fall into a lot of the categories when you be talking about certain things. So, if I was doing something, I don't. If it was me. But one, I've never been like that. I love a good time too much.
Don't you hear your brother?
I love a good time too much to be fussing and fighting. I don't even want to be around nobody that make me fuss and fight.
So you ain't having
it. I love having a good time.
Lord.
So one, I try to approach things from, I have nothing to gain by being mad at my wife. So I'm usually not, because there's no positive for me in that. I can't see a positive in me ruining my wife's day.
And I'm gonna tell you something. To your point, Leonard, and this is something I've been saying this for years, man. I've been saying this for years. And a lot of y'all met my wife. And I tell people, man, I never want to do anything because crazy. I'm doing the transparency thing like Donald talked about. We testifying. One of the things that really got me when I first met my wife was her eyes, and I said, "Girl, I love your eyes. I just love your eyes." And I told her when we've been together for a while, I said, "Look, I never want to do anything. I never want to do anything to you that's gonna make you that's gonna change your eyes and make you cry. I don't ever want to look into your eyes and see that you're crying because of something that I did to you. I never want to." And so if we all took that concept, if we all took that stance scenario, what would that do to us as couples if we never want to do anything to our significant other that's going to make them cry or hurt them?
It would, I believe that it would bring about a lot of healing in relationships, and not just in the person that you're saying that to, as you said to your wife. It brings a lot of healing in the person who actually says it, because then that person truly strives to walk in a way to consistently show love to the other person. you know, healing is important in a relationship because in our humanness, we hurt one another unintentionally. And sometimes we hurt one another trying not to hurt each other. So, you know, I know that for me, hurt has empowered growth. Pain has empowered growth for me. So when I've gone through experiences that cause me hurt and that might cause me to have tears, they're usually tears that will propel me to grow. So I think when we look at our significant other, our mate, and say, wow, I really don't ever want to do something to change the beauty that drew me to that person from the beginning. I don't want to do something that's going to change that beauty about that person. Then we are more conscientious and mindful when we approach the person and how we approach the person in any given situation. What I've learned is even when a situation is going to possibly go south, sour, bad, whatever word you want to use, you still have a few minutes to think about what's going to come out of your mouth at any given time. You have those split seconds because that's how our minds are programmed. It's programmed to think I could go this way or I could go that way. Your mind is automatically programmed that way. So if we took those few seconds, you know, the scripture, be quick to listen. It doesn't say be quick to speak. It says be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to anger. So it's put in that order for a reason. God is very specific about order. So the order is being quick to listen. So that's not just listening to the person, that's listening to what's inside of you as well. You have to be quick to listen to what's getting ready to come out of your own mouth and to think, if I was on the flip side of what I'm getting ready to say, what effect could it have on me if I was on the flip side of that? So if I'm going to say something that is going to make me personally cringe, why would I think it's not going to make the other person cringe?
Absolutely.
So for me, what you said is a way of keeping healing and love in the relationship. And then I'm just throw a quick question out there, and then we can get to that when we get to it, since it's Way Out Wednesday. What I would like to know conceptually how we all as believers feel about the two become one flesh.
I think, me personally, I think that's it's a beautiful concept. We grasp it in its totality, because when two people come together and you take in African culture, they take something and they move it around to something. You know, y'all can help me on this a little bit because I'm struggling with it. But when those two become one heartbeat and everything, that's a beautiful thing. If like I said again, if it's grasped in its totality of what it is and what it means. If she hurts, I hurt. If she's without and I'm without, and I'm gonna go out there as a man, and this from the man's standpoint, I'm gonna go out there and do whatever I have to do to make sure that she's not without long. If she's going through something, I'm going through something, and vice versa. It's like we're joined, we're intertwined in a way that a lot of people that don't understand that concept will never understand. Donna, what do you say to that? I'm gonna get some feedback from somebody's line. I'm gonna get some feedback from somebody's line. Hey, Leonard, mute your line for me. It might not be you though, Leonard. There you go. There you go. Tucson, what's on your heart?
Um, you might have been better off asking Leonard or answer it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Now, pose the question again. Give it to me the best you can.
So Darius?
And maybe I didn't give enough explanation, but I wanted to find out how conceptually how each person views and the two become one flesh. What is your concept of that whole idea of two individual people really being able to become one, being able to become one? What is your concept or thought about that process?
Okay. Let me just start. Does it make any sense? Help me along, Raheem. I love me. I love me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now there is some part of me that's there to make me better. That's not in my skin. Help me along here, Raheem. And that's
Yes,
the
sir.
person that's the person that God has for me as a helpmeet, not a helpmate. See, we focus on what's in our back pocket and other delicate parts of our body that don't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
And when those things go away, the love gone. Well, you got the wrong conception. Two make one. And I got to go back to this. The Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, okay? They are one, not three. And they agree. They connect in every possible way. And the reason why we can't see, that's just me now, and I failed in that area. The reason why we can't see the two making one is because we want to be the one that makes all the difference.
Mm-hmm.
We want to be the important one in the relationship. We want to be the dictator. We want to be the one that is so important. But the person that you are enjoined with is the better you. Don't fall out with them because they don't. They are trying to help you be better when they see your mistakes and flaws and failures.
Mm-hmm.
They pick you up by the bootstraps and they say, "Come on, look. Together we can't go that direction."
Mm-hmm.
Because anytime one body has two heads, it's a freak of nature. I don't know if this really makes sense, sister, but if we're gonna walk together, we have to find out first of all, we have to find out what direction you want to go.
Mm-hmm. Come on.
And so if you team up with the wrong person, a cat don't mingle with a dog.
Mm-hmm.
You're not gonna produce nothing. Sooner or later you're gonna be fighting each other because to a dog, a cat tastes pretty good. I'm just saying.
Wow. Badger, what's on your heart, brother?
Man, in native teachings, that's actually really common that people think that way.
Mm-hmm.
That, when you're married, the two become one. But it's also taught that in the spiritual aspect too.
Yes. Yes.
So, like, from the perspective I come from, like even in our relationship, we don't make a decision unless we both discuss it.
Mm-hmm.
It's really rare for either one of us. Like yesterday, I paid attention to the weather, the condition of the road and stuff, and there was things that we needed to get from the store, and the store just so happened to be open. you know, but I grew up in South Carolina, so I'm used to snow and ice. So I just grabbed the car keys, crunk it up, and I went to the store. I didn't talk to my wife about it. But when I got home, I felt so bad that I didn't talk to her about it. But she said, no, the conditions were different, and I didn't try to stop you. I'm like, that's a good point. Okay, I'll quit beating myself up over it then. You know, we were kind of on the same page, and we didn't even have to speak a word. Because we knew, like, right now, you know, I'm outside and I'm doing my tobacco thing, and there's sleet and ice falling. I'm not driving in this. So, you know, the decision yesterday was we made it without even speaking a word. And, you know, we've almost been married for 10 years. We're about to hit our 10-year mark, or the start of our 10-year mark. And it's interesting when this kind of subject gets brought up, because people have asked us that before. And most people, when we say how we feel and our views on it and stuff, don't stick around very long. Because they normally, you know, well, that's not how it works, and so on and so on. The man's supposed to run that. No, that's not how it works here. I'm like, but I'm also a firm believer in matriarch. You know, I share my opinions and everything else, but because I know I have my flaws, you know, my wife makes final decisions, especially when it comes to the house. But I make final decisions in interacting with people. So wherever I slack in, she doesn't. Wherever she slacks in, I don't. So we balance each other out, and we communicate and accept that within each other. And I think that in itself has a lot to do with becoming one flesh, is when you can get to a point of communication where it's not just words. You can be on the same wavelength and never even speak.
Exactly.
And just do it.
Absolutely. Leonard, what's on your heart, brother? What do you feel about that?
I think it makes sense, because if there's harmony there, that's what it should be, because that's how it works for them. You know, sometimes I think people forget you're marrying a human being. All these other fantastic things are just that, fantastic things. But you're marrying a human being with a brain, with their own likes and dislikes and all that. So you're marrying a person just like yourself. Treat that person like you would want to be treated once again. The difference is that you're intimate with that person. You're mating with that person, probably having children together. You're making other human beings. So a lot of people, sometimes I believe, misuse things, or they may have not been taught properly how to deal with things. But I married a person. I didn't marry the church. I didn't marry the Bible or nothing else. I married a person. I married a person who happens to be a Christian like me. So we have the principles of Christ in common. So we basically have that as a guide. And then we have dominion over our flesh. So if my wife don't like tattoos, I don't go get a tattoo. If we're not going to partake in certain things, then we're not going to partake in certain things. When she is sick, my job is to nourish and try to bring her back down.
Yep.
See, these are things that we should share. All that other sick and demented stuff that people have put in between, amongst these verses, is absolutely ridiculous. Because sometimes people, it really confuses me when people get to talking about marriage and church, and it's a good example. It's a good example, but there's a lot more than what's on the Bible. You got people that sit there, and a man will sit there and use God to take advantage of them.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody, the first thing I heard men do terrible things and then quote the Bible and blah, 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 blah. That is so terrible. Everything, you justify everything with the Bible that you do to somebody.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Let me we're gonna change gears a second. Because this is Way Out Wednesday, no telling where we're gonna go. I yesterday, day before yesterday, somebody sent me a question. And it was a very interesting question, Donald. They asked me organizations, and they was talking specifically about the KKK. And they asked me, they said, well, they're built, they're supposed to be quote unquote built on Christian principles. They're supposed to be built on Christian principles. That's supposed to be the foundation of who they are. And they asked me, can they be Christians with the amount of hate that they have for so many other organizations and so many other different people? How can they be Christians and they hate so much? Donald, how would you answer that question?
Let me just start out here. What's the if we can define God, what would we define him as? Love, right?
Yes.
I'm just saying.
Mm-hmm.
God is love.
Mm-hmm.
No matter where we come from, no matter what you believe, the best example of godliness is love. How we treat one another, how we relate to each other. You know, we hear in this panel and those that call in, everybody has a belief or something that they stand on, a truth. But when we look at these Christian KKK folks, Christian KKK,
Yes.
How do you see God in picking somebody to hate because they're not like you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you hate the Jews, you hate lesbians, you hate gays, you hate, sure enough, hate black folks.
Mm-hmm.
You hate everybody that is inferior to you.
Or
but
you
you're Christian. And that's a bad reflection on Christianity, because that's what nobody wants to be like.
Mm-hmm.
Who wants to be like a person that after singing Ringing in the Sheen, they say we gonna hang us a Negro after service, and we set them afire? How you set a person afire and have the love of God in you? How do you out of the pulpit on the police department, or you are the mayor or the president, with your Holy Ghost filled self, make it your aim to just hate somebody just because of something, and you got love. Somebody lying somewhere, and it's so covered up, because check this out. We fight wars because of terrorists.
Yes.
They terrorize their people. We go across the sea to fight in the name of God. Other folks' war, when we got one going on right here, and we have never pointed them out to be terrorists. Never. How is that possible? When we have been terrorized for years, and everybody that come here, you came here terrorized. And you in the name of God. And you take and take and take and take from everybody you see. I've traveled through this weekend, man, Texas. That's a stolen land. You stole that.
Mm-hmm.
You stole everything that you walk your foot on. None of it belonged to you. And the reason why I can't understand how, and that's why I say why people don't want Christianity, because you say you a Christian.
Mm-hmm.
You, the white supremacists, even if we are of this skin color and you got hate in you, who wants to be like that? And then you say, well, I love Jesus. You lying.
Mm-hmm.
And the truth ain't in you. Ain't nothing about Christianity reflects that. I'm just saying.
Somewhere I read where it says, how could you love me of whom you have never seen, but
Never
hate your
seen.
brother who you see every day?
You the liar and the truth ain't in you.
Badger, what's on your heart, brother? Talk to me.
Oh man, where to start on this one?
Way Out Wednesday. This is Way Out Wednesday.
So,
Everybody
like, I actually did some research on it.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I found out that KKK didn't initially start out as a white supremacy group. They started out as protecting the communities.
Mm-hmm.
And then someone ended up taking over, and it went haywire after that. Somehow they ended up using biblical terms to say that the danger to humanity was different races and beliefs.
Mm. And I question, whose humanity are they talking about? But go ahead.
Yeah, same. That's part of the logic I don't get.
Mm-hmm.
Because I look at the same verses that they use to preach this stuff, and I'm like, that's not what it says.
Mm-hmm.
But all right, if that's what you really think.
Mm-hmm.
So it's something I try to touch on, you know, most time that we talk, because I think this is a topic that we absolutely need to talk about, not just with the KKK, but across the board.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I've talked to Rico and I've been trying to figure out, you know, like, how, as, you know, like, I don't call myself a Christian, you guys know that.
Mm-hmm.
But those of y'all that do, how do you approach a person that's using y'all's tools to teach light in the way that they do? Like, how do you approach it, or attempt to set it right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like in a lot of the teachings I've been given, you know, we're told not to pass on knowledge to a degree unless it feels right.
Mm-hmm.
So not everyone gets taught, you know, and it's not like some people view it as a judgment, but it's not. We're not attempting to judge anybody. But when
Mm-hmm.
we sit there and watch their behaviors and how they treat people, why would we give them, like, one of the most sacred things is the pipe? You know, and there's a lot of teachings involved with that. Why would we give something that is supposed to represent praying for the people to everyone? That makes no sense. Like, no logic. So we're
Mm-hmm.
very reserved in that manner, because we feel that tools are way too powerful just to be handed to just anyone that's walking the street.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, that's why I bring up the biblical terms and verses that people use, because this tool is out there and people have learned to use their silver tongues to manipulate and control the sheeple, the people that are more followers than leaders.
Exactly. That's good. That's good. What do you say to that, man? How would they be Christian and have so much hate in their heart?
Just like you be Christian and saying.
Mm-hmm. Isn't it the same thing?
Pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
10 to 10.
Mm-hmm.
So, we have to realize, it's now become evident to me that how I was raised was different than other people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't do the white thing
Mm-hmm.
like that. I don't get out like that. I always knew white folks was liars.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it never occurred to me that they were telling the truth. So I don't have this fixation with it like some people do. I'm not going to beg you to do the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to bend over backwards for ignorant people who fail to recognize their ignorance. Or pretty much just accept it for that way it is.
Mm-hmm. Wow. That's
So
cool.
I don't get involved with people that we need to. I don't need to sit down and talk to nobody about why you doing what you do. I tell you what, I'll kick you clean across the road. What we ain't gonna do.
That sounds
Like
violent.
you don't know what you've been doing.
That sounds violent.
You should not mean it that way.
Hold on, let me go to the story.
That's not what talk about. What we gonna talk about? What we gonna talk about?
Mm-hmm.
What would we possibly have to discuss?
Mm-hmm. Why you hate? Leonard, Sadario. What do you say to that, sister? How can they be the same?
Power and bondage. That's where that principle rests. And it unfortunately it also rests in the way it was handed down to our complected or our complexion of skin. It was handed down as power and bondage. So let me take words again. Words are so powerful. Let me take words and utilize them in order for me to maintain power and to keep everyone else in bondage. So when you deal with power and bondage, you're automatically going to brew up hate because nobody wants to be in bondage. So, that's like the fight or flight syndrome. When you begin to put people in bondage, they begin to rebel to get out. So the KKK utilizing power to to take words to put people in bondage and then to stir up in them the same feeling that you have manufactured as a reality. So so then that same concept was passed down into the Black churches. If you know the story of paternalism and going back into the slavery aspect of it, the Black preachers were taught to preach a certain way. Now you say, well, this is years later and they go to theology school and they do this and they do that. But Paul said in the scripture, need I not be taught by any man, but I be taught of the Holy Spirit, because that's where truth comes from. Truth doesn't come from men and women. Truth comes from the spirit of the creator of everything. So when you have men that dictate truth, then you're going to have a problem, especially if they're not dictating it from the spirit of truth, which is the Holy Spirit or God's Spirit. If they're dictating it from the ideologies of their ego, then you're going to have a problem. And that's what you see with any leader or sect or organization that is teaching from a place of power and not teaching from a place of truth. Because the word of God again says the truth will, some people use the word set you free, some people use the word make you free, depending on the interpretation of scripture you're reading. But either way, the end result is freedom. So if that truth, whatever truth is being preached wherever you go as a believer, Christian, you know, is not the truth, because there's your truth, there's my truth, and there's the truth, then you are going to follow the guidelines of something that's not true. Last, what I want to say is, when you look at the characteristics of the adversary and how it is set forth, the adversary is based on power and bondage. Power and bondage. That's how the adversary takes control. He overpowers, he lies, he overpowers, and he uses the truth to make it look like a lie because he's subtle. And you have to look up that word to understand how powerful it is. He's subtle, meaning he's wise, because the word says, be wise as a what? Serpent. Serpent was representative of evil, adversary. So even in that, we have to understand that they're, you know, the enemy is wise as to how to put us in bondage. But we have to seek out the truth in everything we do. So it's not Christians per se, it's people. And if humankind could disconnect the word Christian from God and connect it to just people being people, then God wouldn't get such a bad rap.
Exactly.
Because that's not God that's creating the ego and the ideology mind of mankind. That's not God.
Even, and I tell people this right here, Donna, and even the title, or the like Badger says, the label Christian, it wasn't given to us as a term of endearment. It wasn't given to us as a term of endearment at all. But somewhere along the course, we held on and we grasped onto it, and we said, yeah, we are Christians. It's like somebody, you know, and this is two sides of the spectrum. But it's like if somebody say, call you stupid, and then a couple of years down the line, you say, well, I'm stupid, and you grab onto the concept. Christian, the Christian came from the ones who was actually there trying to destroy and trying to kill Jesus the Christ. They saw him when he was, they were putting him out on the top of the ledge, and they saw him in the valley, and he was teaching his people, and they said that there is Jesus the Christ. Those must be Christians that's around him. Those must be Christians. And so it wasn't given to us by our friends or people that loved or was dear to us or cared for us. It was given to us by the ones that wanted to kill us or kill him. Talk to me, dog.
Yeah, that's why I have a different definition. I don't have nobody else's definition of what I am as a Christian.
Yeah, mutual line, Leonard.
Or what I am as godly, or what my faith is, or what my standpoint is as far as the Creator, my God, not your God. I don't have nothing to do with how you believe. That's not my issue. That's not my problem. I don't try to correct you or I don't try to let you correct me, because one thing I keep saying is we don't have dominion over each other. Go train a dog or a cat. Go name him or whatever you want to do, because you're not going to inflict what I believe in my heart was saturated in my mind about who made me, who has me on my back. You know, we go through so much in life, and we talked about so much in this panel today. You know, we if there is something within all of us that you know what's true, you know reality, you know what's real, you know what's a lie rather than the truth. There is enough. I can't say it's an emotion. I don't even say that it's a feeling. It's more than that. It's a godliness, a awareness that you have that no matter whether you are a scientist, or if you believe in the stars or the moon or the cat or the dog, you make this and that and other. You're trying to create a God, something that even if you're an atheist, ain't got nothing to do with that. But there's something that's within all mankind that you say within yourself, that's it. That's what I'm looking for. That's the reality. That's truth. That's where the power lies. That's it. And it's in that person. Now, anything that reflects anything different, you know that ain't God, or whatever you want to say. You know what? That's the love. That's what would make the world a whole lot better. That right there. That reflection that's in that person. Because again, you can't say nothing about loving God. Who has prove it to me? Okay, you talk about God, prove it. Prove it. Can you prove it? So what I'm saying in that, that statement that just made, God is a spirit. And I don't mind praising him, and I don't mind thanking him and giving him glory, but worship. That's where we need to get, because Badger said something. I know I'm talking a lot. I need to go to bed. I talk when I need to go to sleep. Anyway, Badger said something. We've gone so far away from what the creator or what God or who he really is that we're trying to make up stuff along the way. And then you use this phrase, or we use this phrase, and I had to look it up to find out if it was really in the scripture. Follow me as I follow Christ. Well, Paul used that, trying to draw people into, hey, look, you see, you know the type of person that I was. I'll bust your head, I'll haul you off just because you mentioned Jesus. But I met him for myself, and I'm telling you that I made up in my mind that I'm going to do what he says. Now, he was a Pharisee, and a chief of sinners. But when he met him for himself, his whole life changed. And so I look at him and I look at other folks and I say, well, if that's the type of God that we need, that's the type of being that we need in each other to make life better. I mean, I can go on and on, but I'm just saying.
I'm gonna say this like the ex-president says, not First Corinthians, but 1 Corinthians is where you can find. He don't say First Corinthians. He called it 1 Corinthian. But First Corinthians 11 is where you will find that for people that's listening and may want to read up on that. Go to First Corinthians. So Daria, let me ask you this question. We're changing up again. We rapid firing right now. Do we understand as adults? Do we understand the mindset of a child?
We should, because we were all children. You know, if when something happens to us when we become adults, and we try to forget we were children. We try to forget the childish, the childish things we did, and the foolery, because the Word of God tells us that's what children are. They have foolishness. They do foolish things. That's what they're supposed to do because they're children. So we try to forget that we came up through that same foolery, whatever our foolery was. I had a lot of foolery as a child, because I like to have fun. I like to make people laugh. I was a very happy child. And then because of situations, life, things I saw, things I heard, things that didn't match up in my mind, I didn't know how to put them all together. Then I became a foolish adult. And then through my life experiences and through what Donald was just saying, really finding conceptually how to follow Christ, and really seeing Christ in for myself, not my mother's Jesus, not my father's Jesus, but finding my own Jesus after, you know, bad marriage, drugs and alcohol, all the things that I tried to fix my brokenness. So then after finding my own Jesus and coming into my own knowledge of Christ, then I began to gain a little bit of wisdom, experience by experience. So yes, if we would remember being children, and everybody has that ability. I don't, you know, I just reflected yesterday and it brought me to tears. I went all the way back to as far as I could remember as being a child, and some of the things that I had experienced and how much my personality changed from being a little kid to being a teenager. I went into a lot of misery and suicidal thoughts, and then moving from there to getting married and being abused, and then moving from there to getting divorced and being a single mom, and then moving from there to living with somebody, and then moving from there to actually going back what my parents taught me from the beginning, Jesus. And then from there, really understanding Jesus for myself and moving forward into the life and person that you all get to meet. Because you all wouldn't have wanted to know that other girl. Because she was a whole different person. So yes, we do understand children. We may not want to, you know, we may not want to deal with the things that they're dealing with as children, but they have so much purity of thought and realness that we need to grasp a hold to from time to time. Because they're not tainted with all of these laws and rules and unspoken expectations and regulations and other people's thoughts and bad experiences and abuse. They're not tainted by that stuff yet. So yes, we all have the child in us, and we all do understand children. It doesn't mean we want to.
Good deal. And though I'm gonna ask the fellows this question here is for my ladies. So K with an E. Do we understand the mindset of children? Do we understand the mindset?
You know, my son answered that. He was like, "Boy, mama," he was like, "This boy, yeah, you gotta understand them. Although you gotta, I think that they teach us something. I have to be honest, because my grandkids, they teach me something. I was like, where did you learn that at?" And I just look at them because they learn stuff. I know. I tell my son. He told me his daughter was taking pictures. She's 1, and she takes pictures with his phone. And he said she be saying, "Now," and then that song that say "body, body, body." She can't say "body, body, body," so she's saying "body, body, body." He had me dying laughing when y'all was on the talk show last yesterday. And he was listening. That was him. I was laughing. He had me dying laughing. And then he said, "On the bed on me." He came there to get me. I was on my own phone on the conference call, so I could read up the phone.
Okay.
But I was like, let me make sure I let them know what you said, and then you bring it right back to it. Yeah, we can understand it, but like you said, especially get a better understanding of where it comes from, because it comes from a whole new era. We were.
Exactly.
At 5 years old, I was playing with paper dolls that we could cut up a magazine and stuff like that. They got little whole Barbies with babies and male companions, and we didn't have that. They got cell phones and all that stuff. We didn't have that. We was out there playing hide with the big bad wolf and all of that. They don't know nothing about them games. Simon Said. I bought a little Simon Said, and we were playing, me and the grandkids, a little colorful toys.
Exactly.
They in a different era than us. So when I grab a hold to a young person and put them under my wing, it's so that I would understand the era better. Because it's a different era from ours. So I'm like, let me understand where you coming from. Because if I tell you where I was coming from, you probably fall out and die.
Exactly. Tucson, what do you say to that? Do we understand the mindset of a child?
I said we started that. I think it was Tuesday or whenever we did. But If we did, we probably would do them better. Because we are the caregivers, the ones that's supposed to nurture them, supposed to direct them, give them proper instructions to make society better. How is that working out? You know, look at our society versus when we were brought up. And I just saying that I know that's not the answer to your question. Maybe it is, maybe it ain't. But somebody said, I don't want to raise my children like I was raised. Well, how's that working out for you, genius? You can't even go outdoors wondering if one of them little 8-year-old gonna blow your brains out.
Exactly.
How's that good? Is that good for you? So do we understand children? We should, but we evidently we don't, because we're not giving them instructions. We just letting the TV raise them and the internet. And that's why they don't know who they are. Not all of them. Because some people are taking time out to make sure that when I sit at the dinner table, my child sits at the dinner table.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We talk, we communicate. If they go off to the left or to the right, I say, "Come here, son. Come here, daughter." You know, I like what Badger. When you see Badger in the background, you see Badger's kids.
Yeah.
That's family.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he knows where they are. And when they do something, you can tell when he don't agree with it, because he says, "Okay, I'll be right back."
Yep.
You see what I'm saying? Even though he has this going on and he's a part of this, I guarantee you, if something happens at his house, this all has to go.
Yeah.
Because there's more important things than just trying to be live on a broadcast, trying to show yourself.
You're absolutely right.
It's more than that. He has a wife, he has the children, he has responsibilities, and if this trying to be somebody is more important than that, we all off track.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So we have to understand. We have to understand these children, because if we don't, we'll never turn this mess we have created ourselves around.
Exactly. Absolutely. Leonard, what do you say to that? Do we understand the mindset of children?
I do. Because I was a child. How about you?
No.
No. I mean, where did you come from?
Man, I was born.
I mean,
I was born a man, brother.
You should at least know where you've been. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
Even the most ignorant should know where they've been.
Yes, sir. Come on.
I'm just saying. I mean, you've been there before. Like, my thing is discipline. Because I don't have to teach you how to do wrong. You're going to learn that on your own. I'll teach you how to do right, so you know the difference. But, a lot of people are just, I can't deal with the extra. And if you got some sense, you teach your kids to have some.
If you got some, you got that right.
If the kids ain't got no sense, a lot of times parents ain't got no sense.
Apple don't fall too far from the tree.
Pretty much. And that's not condemning people. But if your child has been raised in an environment where you've done nothing but give them an example of the wrong thing to do, how do you think they're going to grow up?
Yeah.
We have a lot of issues and we want to look around. Well, today is movies and this. No. You had more children than you should have. Oh, no, it's not media. You chose to have them without the father in the home.
Yep.
It ain't everybody else, it's you. My mother raised us to do the right thing. Now, what we choose to do, that's up to us. But here's the right way. Like, my goodness, I'm getting old. Sadara said.
Yeah, you're getting old, brother.
Like Sadara said, she went all the way around the wilderness
Mm-hmm.
and wound up right back
Yep.
how she had been taught.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
See, if you put it in these children, it will come back to them.
Mm-hmm.
And then they will no longer be looking at the outside for correction and conviction because it'll be coming from the inside.
Mm-hmm.
So they should be able to correct themselves. A child should get to a certain point, I'm not a big fan of corporal punishment, but people you say, how do you get your child to be so well behaved? He ain't got no other choice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I tell you what, you call him and tell him to come to you. Come in such and such, I wish you would get up.
Mm-hmm.
Now go ahead, such and such.
Yeah.
I don't play like that because if I don't do it, whose responsibility is it? It's my responsibility to raise my children in the fear and admonition of the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the God I serve. So that's what I teach to my children.
What blank?
But see, if all you do is serve your own desires and what you want and live how you want, that's what your child's gonna do.
Mm-hmm. That's good. That's good.
He ain't even gonna look back. He don't even look back. He may not understand correction until somebody hit him in the head with a brick.
Mm.
Because you didn't correct it.
But look, must we be so graphic? Must we be so graphic?
I'm just saying, a brick will make you realize you don't messed up.
Now, what's in that brick that gonna make you realize you messed up, Leonard? What is it in that brick?
Just saying, a bunch of little things. It don't even matter what's in the brick. You know you don't want to be hitting the head with that brick.
Hey, hold on. Badger, what's on your heart, brother? Do we understand the mindset of a child? Leonard taking a left turn on us, but
no, he ain't. He's got a lot of valid point.
No. Go ahead, Badger. I want to hear your point.
So,
I want to hear your point.
Man, I feel very blessed because I can very much relate to my kiddos. Because I'm still a child at heart. Everyone wants to be a man. Well, I'm growing up to learn how to be a child again. I'll be a man when I have to be. Otherwise, other than that, I'm going to be a kid with my kids. And yesterday, the reason I'm laughing and giggling isn't just because of what Leonard said, but because of something that happened yesterday. My youngest son is 6. He's about to be 7 in April. And one of the ways that I use as a teaching tools is I will mimic their behavior. If they're being rude, I'll act rude. My 6-year-old yesterday told me acting like a grown up acting like a kid is stupid. And I went, why? He said, because you're not supposed to be rude and all that stuff. And I'm like, huh. I'm going to go ahead and put you in Psychology 101. I was joking around with my wife about it because he's got they're both so smart. And I'm very fortunate and I'm happy that me and my wife is continuing to work really hard at getting them to understand that stuff, and they have their struggles, me and my wife, we're very much very cautious on diagnosis of anything, mental health, allergies, whatever, because we're very natural people. So when he was the youngest was showing so many signs time and time again, over and over, when we finally decided to get him tested because he's different. He is full-blown ADHD, and it's one of the rare times where I actually agree with a psychologist when it comes to a child diagnosis, because so many people get their children diagnosed with ADHD and all there are is just being a kid that's hyper. There are obvious differences between a child that actually has it and a child that's just diagnosed with it. So with him, he gets it's so obvious. So it can be a struggle from time to time. So with us, it's more teaching them how to cope with what they have. because they have such a respect for other human beings. Like I messaged just a second ago in the private chat, you know, I'm like, you know, I could turn off the cam and I'm like, kids want me to chase off a cat so it wouldn't attack the birds that are at the bird feeder. You know, and I got up and I went and did it because I understand where they're coming from. You know, they view daddy as a protector, and I'm, you know, I want them to learn that concept. I want them to learn that, you know, they need to be a protector and honor and be respectful to all things. So they want me to protect some birds. I'm going to go protect some birds.
There you go.
You know, if people think I'm foolish for it, that's your problem, not mine.
So I'm out here protecting these birds.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
another. Go ahead.
No,
go ahead.
I don't want to take up too much time. I just saw the time, so I'm like, we'll talk about it another day.
Yeah. We got another caller. Caller, what's your name? Where you calling from?
Good morning, Cleveland to y'all. I'm early for tomorrow. What's going on?
Yeah, you're early for tomorrow. So I'm gonna go ahead and tell you, you're late for the day, but you're early for tomorrow. So we got to figure out how we're gonna pay you for this one right here. But do we understand the mindset of a child? Talk to me, Toy. Do we understand as adults? Do we understand the mindset of a child?
Nope, and don't want to. Don't even try. Let me tell you something. Some of us so mad about that cold sandwich we got when we was a child. We don't even want to be a child no more. We so mad about that girlfriend we liked in 17 and 7 day of elementary school who didn't like us back. We didn't want to be a kid no more. So now we don't want to. We don't even want to identify with them. And I think that that's what we need to do. That's what the Lord say, right? He said you need to deal with you a child like mine. Child like mine is the one who, even if you a bum, they don't keep tail, don't care about you being dirty and dusty. You're a human being. So a child like mine is the one that you can tell them all they want to. It can't get down, but it keeps gonna try it anyway. It's hot. It's hot. What is heat? Oh, that's what heat is. So that child like mine, you know, every time we fail and get mad at it, we become less a child. They make us grow up. Don't think like that. Don't do like that. Don't do like that. You're not a kid anymore. You're not this. You're not that. So in a lot of ways, absolutely not. You don't even try to think about childlike ways or activities. But there are some activities, for instance, I'm going to use being faithful. That's what kids do. Having had fornicating. Yeah, I just gotta have. I can't wait to get to know you and make sure you're the right person and we get married. Oh, I just got to have sex. That's a childlike move. We want to pick and choose. We get married to somebody and want to hit them. That's a childlike move because they didn't want to move and act how you said, so now you want to get violent or yell. There are a lot of childlike traits we take on, but there are also a lot of childlike traits we give up that can take us to our destiny and we choose not to deal with.
Exactly. Tucson, if we had the innocence of a child, if we could hold on and continue to grasp the innocence of a child, would that help us as a group of people, black, white, orange, polka dot, or green?
Yes, sir. Yeah. Oh, yeah. See, we all grown folks. That's our biggest problem. We know everything. We done everything. We are. I can't say that. Boy, I wish I had that. Well, I almost got in the corner. You know how we say we are the stuff? We are, boy, we it.
Yeah.
But the child is receptive to whatever you can put in them, whether it's good or bad now. And some of the things that we have put in them is our fault. And I can agree with Toya. I don't want to understand them, really. I want to implant something in them to make them better than me. Every parent should want their child to be better than they were or they are, to excel. You know, so when we look at a little, and let me say this, y'all, if y'all don't mind. You see them little children, cherish them, because you know, Raheem, I've experienced something in the last week or so that I never thought that I would have to lay one of my grandchildren to rest. Never thought that. So every time you See your child, love them, care for them, do all you possibly can to make them better. Because when you're looking at them, they're looking back at you.
Yep.
Not for you to get something from them. They want something from you. That's why they cry when nothing's wrong. I'm just saying. Don't miss your opportunity because you just get one.
Absolutely, absolutely, man. This has been a great broadcast, man. We got 9 minutes before we get out of here. Badger, what's on your heart? If we can hold on to the innocence of a child, how would that help us?
Oh man, I I just posted something in there. I had someone say to me that our children look up to parents like gods, like God, because until we teach them what creation or creator is, we are probably the closest thing to that. We help fulfill their needs, their wants, things of that nature. So to them, the way we interact, the way we choose to live with them, teach them, it decides a lot of their future just within that itself. And the fact that a lot of people don't take in the innocence of a child. I have such a huge problem with people saying that children are sinful because they are so innocent. They're born with sin. I have such a problem with that concept. They don't know what a lie is. Most kids that I know that lie are doing it self-defensively, primordial, because they don't want to get that spanking. They're in protect mode. They don't want to get in trouble. I can't, it's so hard to view that as a sin when it comes from a place of defense. Protection of oneself. And learning that, they're so innocent. It's how we respond to that and how we label their actions and word usage that we use towards them that takes that away from them.
That's good. That's good. What would the innocence of a child, how would that benefit us as adults?
Well, first of all, I don't speak to the innocence of a child. Because we use that phrase to our own detriment. And you're like, you were born in sin and shaped in iniquity. Now, innocence in this particular issue is innocent to those things that they should not know because they're not adults. You understand what I'm saying?
I know where you're going with it. I see where you're going.
Once you, yeah. Once you know, you know. So let's not take this innocence thing so far. If you're talking about the innocence and not knowing the difference between right and wrong, that ain't but maybe a few years of the beginning of your life. By 6 or 7, you start to learn right from wrong. So when you say innocence, I'm not sure exactly what that means.
Okay. Well, what I'm talking about is a child. If you look at a child, they have a certain lack of a better term, innocence about themselves. And I'm gonna tell you what I used to do with my daughters.
Okay.
What I used to do with my daughters a lot when they was in elementary school, 1st, 2nd grade. They used to come home and they would describe to me some things that happened at school that day. And I intentionally sit there and I listen to what they say. And I wanted to see the description of the people. I said, well, who did it? Well, okay. Well, who was it that did that? And they would describe the people that did it. And they would describe the color of the hair, about this tall color hair, but they never would attach a color, black, white, or whatever, to it. And I love that because I know that they didn't see color. It wasn't color that they saw. They saw individuals. Well, this girl, she did that. Her name is Blase Blase, or this guy, he did that. His name is Blase Blase, but they never said the color. If I never asked them anything about color, and I intentionally did not, because I didn't want them to go there. I just wanted to see the innocence of where they were. Adults, First thing they'll say, man, that black boy, he did this, or the white boy, he did this and stuff. That's one of the first things we'll use when describing somebody. I think it was an innocence in them that they didn't do that.
I mean, if that's what you believe, that's what you believe. Okay. I don't have no problem with it.
Cool.
I mean, it probably doesn't matter to them.
Mm-hmm.
Because their lives are not structured that way at that particular age.
Exactly.
You mentioned it.
Exactly. My point is
but
that.
I bet you when you start to ask them to describe something, that's part of the description.
Nowadays, probably so. But like I said, back then they didn't see the color aspect of it, which I think was a beautiful thing. K with the E. What's on your heart, sis? Mute your line for a minute.
Just listening in agreement. And I think to grab, I tell you all the time, I grab the young people under me because I need to know what he's thinking, and maybe they are thinking wrong, and they can be redirected. And so I just say that's where my job kicks in. That it's asking to redirect that's wrong. Other than that, sometimes we're thinking on the level where we should be paying them some attention. Like, they just need some attention. And then we got to remind, like, let a kid be a kid. Like, my grandkids, I definitely do play hide and seek in the house. They couldn't go outside. So we had to find things to do with them. And we didn't just play hide and seek. We had times where we talked about the Lord, we talked about the Bible. They had to go and come back and tell me what they understood about something in the Bible. They had to go Google Christmas and all kinds of stuff. I make them do all of that. I don't want them to grow up thinking that this is this and this is that. So this is a time for correction.
K with the E.
Is correcting them.
K with the E. Go ahead. Tell us the truth, K. Tell us the truth for a second. And sometime when you get sleepy, you say you're gonna play hide and go seek, and you go hide somewhere where you know they ain't gonna find you, so you can get you an hour nap at it.
No, I'm gonna leave the base. Oh. They gotta make it back to me.
Oh, okay.
I leave the base. When you play school, I'm the principal.
Oh, okay. I like it.
You a good dog. I like do all that. And I help them hide. I help my babies hide. They'll never find you. Especially a little bitty ones. They don't never find them. So we have fun.
Exactly. Hey, Toy with the T, look at here. Sometimes the parents, they go somewhere to hide where they know the kids ain't gonna find them, so they can take a nap.
That's what I do. When I get my two nephews, I go with my nephews every 2 weeks, honey. And I send them all upstairs, they got with plugs and electric sockets and stuff, and I can see how, here I come. You sit down there watching TV, trying to take a nap or whatever. I said I was going to record myself. Here I come. And it used to be a high and waiting on me. And I can see Daddy how I still sit downstairs on the couch, watching what I want to watch. And Auntie, here I come. I think you're not there. Oh, man. I get them like that for a good about an hour till after they don't see me. They like, now, Auntie, now, come on. Now, they just come start bothering me. Like, you ain't come find us. You ain't come find us. Yeah, I know. You want to hide again? No, I want to hide out, dog.
No.
You want to take a nap? No?
Exactly.
Okay, well, we'll find something else to do. But yeah, I'm with that, Kay. I'm with it. I'm the fun auntie.
See, Donna, now Donna, somehow that just ain't right. Somehow that just ain't right. You're gonna send them kids.
Of course it is.
Come on, you gonna hide. You want to take a nap, so you're gonna go hide somewhere where you know they ain't gonna find you. And the only way they find you because they hear you snoring.
Right. About 4 though. You gotta keep that in mind. After about 4, they become hit because you've done it so many times.
Exactly. Talk to me, Donna, before we get out of here.
Hey, then they walk up to you and then they pull you sleep or acting like you sleep, and they grab you like that to say, "You will."
Lord, my Jesus. open up your eyelids for you.
You sleeping, Daddy?
No, I was.
Yeah.
Listen, this is Way Out Wednesday, y'all. It is 10 o'clock time for us to get out of here for today. Leonard, what's going on at 3 o'clock today?
If you did not get a chance to hear the show in its entirety, log on to www.dkmmediagroup.com at 3 o'clock Eastern.
Toya with the team, pour us out.
old God there for a second, Lord. Thank you, Father God, for the glorious day, Lord. You know, we love you, we praise you, we give you honor, Lord. We ask that you continue to guide our steps and guide our minds, Lord. Continue to work on us, Lord. You know, with Spirit of seed, you can make us do whatever you want us to do, Lord. So give us everything that you need for us to do to reach our destinies and make your will true. Keep us covered and protected, Lord. We love you and we praise you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
It is time for us to get out here for today. It's been a great broadcast. I want to thank everybody for joining us. And more than that, I want to thank you for allowing DKM Media Group and the Morning Glow to be a part of your morning. It's 10:01. You're about to exit the Morning Glow. But before you go, I want you to do me two favors, if you will. One, I want you to continue to pray for us because we're certainly praying for each and every one of you. Number two, why this is real simple. I want you to go out there, find somebody, and give them a hug because you never know. It could be the only hug that they get, or it could very well be their last. Love you, and ain't nothing you can do about it. Have a great day and a better tomorrow. We shine some of this light of you from the Morning Glow. Take it out there into this wicked and cruel world that we live in, and let your light so shine. You'll have a great day. Take an opportunity to give somebody some love. You just might find some love in return. Wouldn't that be a beautiful thing? You'll have a great day. Love each other. Love you.